Okay, here we are. We've skipped first part of the character creation because it really doesn't matter to the rest of the game what sex you are and how you look. We're skipping right ahead to the special stats, and we're skipping to the end. I'm gonna go through these and tell you, give you some pointers. First of all, we have strength, and strength isn't as important as one might think. It affects your carry weight and your melee skill, but the melee skill you can raise with skill points, and the carry capacity can be improved later on with the strong back perk. So I wouldn't recommend going too weak, but since we don't have a lot of points to distribute, and there are other skills, stats that are more important, I recommend starting out with a 4 here, and let's see, there we go. And the reason we're starting out with 4 is because right into the game in Megaton we have a bobblehead in Lucas Sim's office, which we can get to increase this by 1. So, and we're gonna need at least 5 strength to get the perk strong back later in the game. So that's the starting point for strength. And let's skip ahead to intelligence. This is, in my opinion, the most important skill, stat, because it affects how many skill points you gain when you level up. So it's very important to start out early in the game with a high intelligence, because every time you level up, you're gonna get extra skill points if you have a high intelligence. And if you start out with a low intelligence, you're gonna lose out on a lot of skill points. So we're gonna raise this up to 9. You don't have to take all the way up to 10, because there's a bobblehead in Rivet City that you can get, and we don't gain all that much by raising it to 10. So we're going to start out with 9, and it also affects some perks, but since we raise it this much, we don't really have to worry about the perks. But if you do want to experiment, what you're gonna at least want in intelligence is 4, because there are 2 perks, comprehension and educated, which are very important to take, well, if you like skill points. So I don't recommend going below 4. And let's go with one we can lower. Charisma isn't actually as important as one might think. It affects how people view you, if you're attractive, whatever. This will make them more inclined to listen to you. Increases your barter skill and speech skill, but those things can be raised by raising the skill in itself, and this hasn't really got many effects that last. So we're gonna take 2 points of this and use them somewhere else. It also affects some perks, of course, but no perks that are vital to the game, in my opinion. So now we have some points to use. So we're going to go to agility, which is a very important skill when it comes to action points, which is what you use in VATS mode. So if you like using VATS, you're probably going to want some agility. So I'm gonna, let's see, 7 is probably a good number to start out with. Agility also affects a lot of perks. So there's a minimum requirement for it. So 7 is a good one. Agility is actually, when perks are concerned, this is the best stat to raise. Let's see, some important perks are Silent Running, Sniper, and Action Boy. Very nice ones. So let's see, what do we have? Perception. It's also a fairly important skill because it affects your threat indicator when you notice people that are hostile towards you. And by noticing them early, you can go into sneak mode or avoid them, shoot them, whatever. So discovering enemies quickly is very important. So we're going to raise that by 1. This stat is also important because there's perk requirements, and the very important perk, very nice perk I should say, better criticals, which is in my opinion one of the best perks in the game, because it increases your damage by 50% when you get a critical hit. So this is a good stat to have at least 6 in. And moving on, endurance is also one of these skills stats that is important from a perk perspective. You need a certain amount of endurance to access some important perks. For instance, toughness and the strong back perk. The strong back perk, of course, is important because, well, first of all, because we didn't waste too much in strength, and because if you're gonna want to carry power armor later in the game, which weighs a lot, you're gonna need some extra carrying capacity because it weighs a lot. So we're gonna go with at least 5 in endurance. Then finally, we're going to raise luck by 1, and luck is actually an important stat. It affects your critical chance, and by raising it to 6, we have a 6% chance to get a critical hit with our weapons, or melee attacks, whatever. And this is also affected by what kind of weapon you use. So if you use something like the Lincoln Repeater, you have a critical, well, there's a factor that you multiply by this number. So if we have a 6% chance, the Lincoln Repeater, you multiply this by 5. I think this is how it works, I'm not sure, but you know, so we get a 30% chance to hit critically with the Lincoln Repeater, which means that this is an important stat when it comes to critical hits, and especially if you take the better criticals perk. Basically this increases your damage output by a significant amount. Anyway, I think we're about done here. Yeah, the strength, each point in strength raises your carrying capacity by 20. So if we had raised this to 6, we would have had 40 more carrying capacity. So you know, it's a trade-off, but if you want to, if you're getting sick of running back to town and emptying your inventory, you can raise the strength which basically is what it's good for. And not having to run back to town all the time, and managing your inventory and dropping stuff and selling stuff and all that. But it's not a vital skill, so since we have to prioritize, we're gonna start out with 4. Anyway, we're all done. We're gonna move on.